And before that, we'll understand this also.
So where are we running it?
In Kubernetes,
Correct, but which Kubernetes environment?
I'll provide it. Don't worry about the environment. Everything I will give it to you. You just have to do it and clone my steps.
Okay.
Okay. So installing and operating Argo CD. So what is the requirement for Argo CD that we are going to discuss? And after that, throughout the sessions, we'll understand how do we deploy the application using Argo CD. So as part of that, we'll understand multiple things. We'll understand how do we access the Argo CD using command line UI, how do we set up user management, secret management, HA, backup, disaster, and many more things which we have. So what is the requirement for Argo CD? So first of all, this something which you know that you need to have a Kubernetes clusters for that. So each one of us will have a two Kubernetes cluster, one for hosting the Argo CD and one for deploying on our app. So you need a kubectl command line installed that we will have. Then Kubernetes clusters to host Argo CD. Then Kubernetes admin access level access that will have kubeconfig configure to connect to your Kubernetes cluster. So that anyways we'll do that. And we should also have access to GitHub. So we are using as part of this session, we are using GitHub. Okay, so deploying Argo CD. So how do you deploy? So today we will deploy Argo CD in a non-HA environment. Okay, but tomorrow we'll do that HA. Don't worry, deployment is nothing but just one YAML file. We have to run it. That's all. So non-HA means there is one package, Argo CD package, which I'll show you that. So there will be one file called install.yaml. Remember that you are doing nothing great, just deploying one YAML file in Kubernetes. So there's a one file will be there. I'll give it to you. Install.yaml. So using that install.yaml, you can use the non-HA. Non-HA means no high availability. In simple way, I'll put it in this way. Argo CD, the component, those which we discussed in the last session, will be deployed each one of each one copy of it, and each one of this product component will be deployed. In HA, what basically is there? It's a replica set. It's a deployment. Multiple replicas will be there for the each pod. That's all. It's called HA. Are you understanding all of you? Hello.
Yeah, Rajesh.
Yeah. So for the HA, non-HA, we'll use install.yaml file. For HA, we'll use the namespace hyphen install.yaml file. That is a different. Now, one
Okay,
for
this
recommended
YAML
for,
file, is it provided by default by the community, or it is something
yeah,
that you
Argo
have?
CD only they have given it.
Okay,
We'll
okay,
download and run it. That's all.
okay.
I'll put it in a more simpler way. Install.yaml file is nothing but your pod deployment and services. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Kubernetes
Yeah.
deployment and services. Okay. So one is recommended for the dev, which is for non-HA, if you want to learn for learning and stuff like that. For the production, you can use high availability namespace -HA. So as part of this install.yaml, you will get a single pod for each of this component and replicas for the Argo CD components. But as part of this namespace -install.yaml, tuned for high availability and resiliency, multiple replicas for the supported components. So that's a two types of install you will have. Now you can also have one install which is called core install. So core install means what? Core install means you get only application server and controller, nothing else. You get no web UI, no API server. You won't get it. Are not needed actually. So that how do you install the core install? So there'll be one YAML file that named with core-install. So use when multi-tenancy feature web UI, API server ETCs are not needed. Install the lightweight non-HA version of each component. So this is the core install. Now here there are two level of installations you can consider. Okay, either you install at the cluster level or either you install at the namespace level. How do you understand this way? Please understand in us through the images. Namespace, namespace. You all are you all are aware about it, correct? All of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in the first image, what we say cluster level, that means what we did, we installed Argo CD app in the namespace, one dedicated namespace named with Argo CD. Okay, so that means my Argo CD application is running with Argo CD namespace of my cluster. Now, what you can do using that application, you can deploy application in the different namespace of that same cluster. That's called cluster level. Look at this. So you have a namespace app1, namespace app2, namespace app CD, Argo CD. So Argo CD, we have deployed Argo CD. And then from that, you can use same cluster, but different namespace to deploy a different app. Simple. So use when you have a cluster level access and will deploy apps in the same Kubernetes cluster that Argo CD runs on. This is called cluster level. Are you comfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now namespace level means you have a one cluster, Kubernetes cluster for Argo CD, and using that you can deploy app in the different cluster. So that is called namespace level. Look at this. So you are using Argo CD, you are deploying in the different cluster, app one in a different cluster, app two in a different cluster, app three in a different cluster. That is called namespace level of deployment which you have. Make sense? Hello?
Yeah, but actually, is the name and the function correct? Because see, in the left-hand side, what you have is namespace Argo CD deploying on different namespaces on the same Kubernetes cluster, right?
Yeah. So
Uh,
using Argo CD, we deploy app only, right? Nothing we do, nothing else we do.
Correct, but that is you're deploying on different namespace,
Different namespace, same cluster.
same cluster.
Yeah.
And here on the right side, you have this is a independent cluster where Argo CD is running, and that is deploying onto applications onto separate clusters.
Different clusters.
Yeah, but then why the naming convention looks to be like swapped? Namespace level, should it be on the left side and cluster level, is it on the right side?
No,
Somehow,
I mean, typically namespace label means there's an access label actually here you say. Namespace label means when you have access only to, understand that. When you have
mhm,
access only to the namespace, then you can use the second one, the right side. When you have access to entire cluster, okay, then you can use
mhm.
this first one.
Okay.
See what happens. Sometime you get only access to the namespace in the enterprises, and you can deploy anything which you want. Correct? No?
So, so from on the right side, the Argo CD is deploying to the another cluster where it has access only to that namespace, not the cluster.
Namespace, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You can deploy Argo CD as many times you want.
Mm, okay.
Okay, so install Argo CD, nothing else we have to do. I think apply command, you are very comfortable with it. So we'll have to create a namespace for Argo CD and then deploy all of this component. This YAML file install.yaml, I'll show you that where to get it. Okay, so that is a manifest of this. So yes, we'll run this command and finally you can access this stuff. Okay, now after installing, we will see how can you access the Argo CD API server. So very simple, there are two ways to do that. We've been discussing about it. One is you can access that through the web UI. Okay. And second one, you can access through the command line. So command line also we need to configure. How to configure those steps anyways I'll show you in a session live. And how to access the web UI also I'll show you. So remember that for web UI also we have to expose some of the stuff which I'll show you that you know in some time. Okay, so command line and web UI. That is the two way to access it. So we'll start with the web UI and slowly we'll migrate to command line also. Okay, so which are the command line for accessing that using the Argo CD? So here we have Argo CD CLI. So Argo CD CLI has a command line interface to access the API server. Some activities can only performed by Argo CD CLI, such as adding new cluster and managing user accounts. Remember that adding a new cluster and managing user accounts can be done by CLI only, whereas UI can be used for the rest also. Script automated using Argo CD and CLI it also can be used. Now, how do you install the CLI? So I'll help you to show you that. I'll help you to show you that. So you can use Chocolatey, Choco for Windows, Mac, Homebrew, and all, and Linux. You can use uh, some APTM also. So like that. Okay, so common Argo CD commands.
But for
So
Linux, it was written as brew.
yeah, there's a
Brew
mistake.
is what?
I have to correct it. It should APT actually, or yum it should be. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So Brew is a utility, Harshit. So it's typically on Mac. It's very user-friendly tool to install a lot of utilities, including
Okay.
Tomcat, Argo CD.
Yeah, but probably he was talking about this is a wrong one.
Yeah, that also I noted. Yeah,
Yeah,
correct. Good catch.
yeah.
I had a
So
light lunch.
yeah, so it should be yum and APT. I'll show you. That's not a big deal. You can download also utility. That's the one executable. That's all. Now, common Argo CD CLI, so commands for it. So if you want to log into this Argo CD login, if you want to see the accounts information, account, project information, app information, repo information, version, utils, and cluster. All this thing will run for the sessions and stuff like that. Okay, so before going further, let's get into the demo. So I'll put in a step by step so you'll not get confused and you will stick to what it. So here, this is the day one. I'll share with you these notes through GitHub. Don't worry about that. So first thing, how to install Argo CD in Kubernetes. Okay, Kubernetes. So this is a question which I'm trying to answer. So I'll step by step, I'll put it up. Step number one, install and configure one Kubernetes cluster. That's step number one. Step number two, install, create a namespace. Sorry. Configure a workstation of QCD. These are the three steps we have to do. After that, second thing, create a namespace where you want to run Argo CD pods. Step number three, deploy Argo CD non-HA to Kubernetes cluster. Okay. Step four. Uh, all of you understand this service type, right? Different type. All of you. All of
So
you.
when you say service type, are you talking about cluster IP, node?
Yes. I'm talking about the same.
Okay,
So you
okay.
have a service IP, cluster IP,
Node port. Mhm.
node port, load balancer, external IPs, and there is an ingress also. You understand, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I'll not complicate too much of Kubernetes. right now. I'll just make it node port. So deploy, expose API server, Argo CD API server, CD API server with node port. Okay. Service, sorry, not server. API server service with node port. Why we have to access? Because you understand, if you want to access through this workstation, you'll have to do that. Okay. So that is done. And step number 5. Step number 5. Configure Argo CD API server with QCT and this Argo CD command line. Argo CD command. So all these steps which we have to do, and I'll show you the demo for this. Theoretically, if you have understood, do let me know. I'll start the demo.
Yeah.
Yep, looks good.
Okay. So guys, don't worry about the lab environment. I'll give it to you, machine, each one of you. The only request I'm having is all of you have to look at my steps very carefully. Okay. So let's get started. So AWS. EC2 launch. Now I'm going for CentOS. Okay. So sub. Now I'll go for 2 CPU, 8 GB RAM. Okay, that's sufficient for the demo. One machine. 50 GB hard disk, I'll go for it. This is for Kate. This is for Rajesh. Like this, I'll give it to you also. And for that security, I mean firewall, I'm opening up everything. This is a wrong practice, but we are using for learning purpose. Best practices and all we'll discuss later point of the time. And finally, I'm going to use, let's create new. So DevOps school training. Okay. Launch. So I created one instance. Now I'll copy this into my keys folder. So I'll not forget this. Okay. So now just go for it. Refresh. Here it is. So this is my IP address. Rajesh. Username is CentOS. Key I'm having it. Okay. Now first let me log in. So are you able to see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm little scared because meeting is getting disconnected some reason. Okay. So guys, here DevOps school training CentOS, and I'm trying to log into the server. There's a command problem. Yes. Now guys, this is my machines, which is for the cluster. I'll become root to avoid the multiple sudos and all. Done. Now guys, I need to set up a cluster. There are a lot of ways to set up a cluster. One of the ways I'm going to use Kubernetes cluster setup devops. Here I have a step-by-step commands which I'm going to follow in front of you. You can follow also same thing. This is the steps. So now this is the using kubeadm I'm setting up a cluster. You can read it if you want more information. So this command, this section will help me to set up a master. This sections will help me to set up workstation. This sections will help me to set up worker. Okay, so what I'm basically trying to do, all these things set up master, worker and workstation. Are you comfortable so far?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Just again. Yeah. So guys, step one, I don't need to do that. Why? Because this is for the virtual machine to change the hardware. Step number two, you can do that if you really want it and changing the host name. So I can do that. I cannot do that. It's up to me because AWS assigned the host name unique anyways. It's up to you. I just did it. Stop the firewall. So I know this, the AMI which I have used it, which has a no firewall. But still, if you want to do that, by the way, it's not a good practice, but I want the flawless lab and demo, focusing on the tool, not on the practices right now. So you can do that. So remember that there's a two kind of firewall, OS level firewall, network level firewall. So network level firewall is done by security groups. OS level firewall, I can do that. So network level firewall, anyways, I have updated. So firewall D command problem systemctl, and it's already done actually. It's not there actually. Disabled. So not needed actually. So you can do that. Disable the swap in AWS. Actually, this is disabled. So you don't have to do this one. It's already swapped is disabled. Okay, so now after this, you have to install the Docker. So guys, I'm installing the Docker right now.
But this is not Docker, no? I mean, utils, device,
What are you
mapper,
saying?
persistent. But what you just installed is not Docker. Okay.
It's a prerequisite for Docker. This
Okay.
section is Docker. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
There are so many ways to install the Docker. That's the one of the way I'm having it. Whichever you are comfortable, you can go ahead. That's not a problem. This command will install the Docker. Almost done. And after that, you can enable the Docker for tomorrow. And finally, you can start the Docker. Confirm this Docker. Now, in Kubernetes 1.22, C groups has been changed So we have to do these special steps also. Okay, so we have to change the C group FS to systemd. How can you do that? So this you have to do. So status, modify this code, this service. Are you able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
And this line you modify to this line. Done. Save it. Now you have to reload the Docker service and restart this Docker and info and check that C group is got systemd or not. 0. So if you don't do that, 1.22 you cannot run. That's the problem. So they have changed this here. Now this is the repository for the YAM, adding that all the kubectl, kubelet, kubeadm and all. So done. Now I am going to set in 40 for the permission. Sometimes this command will not work. So second command is just for the make sure it is effective. And then this command. Remember that I'm installing 1.22, okay, not 1.23. Why I'm not going for latest one? Because latest will require to they have changed that. Latest has released last month, I guess, and they've changed the container Docker as a default container engine. Okay, so
Right, they're using container D now.
yeah, so we don't want to go into that mode right now because our focus is not Kubernetes but Argo CD. So we'll use the Docker only for time being. So we'll stick to will force to 1.22, which is a 2 months old release. Enter. Done, guys. Now don't run this command blindly because this is just for reference. Okay, and run this command for kubelet namely this is the kubelet agent for it. Now finally this magical command you have to run it. I don't want to see any errors or something, so ignoring the free flight errors and running it. Enter. And this will set up your master. This command will set up your master components, which includes API server, scheduler, controller manager, etcd, proxy, and some this one core DNS and also like that. Almost done, guys. And done. So guys, my master is set up successfully. You can read this. You should store this file somewhere. This content is important for clusters setup. So I'm going to set it up. Don't copy my code actually, guys. This is for me, not for you. You will have your own code. So this is my reference, Rajesh cluster. This is mine. Okay. So guys, master setup has been completed. Output you will get it something like that, and I did it. So any questions, any confusion so far?
So how do we access the AWS environment?
So I'm accessing right now. I'll give you the IP address, password.
Do we have to start from scratch, or there is a cluster already set up there?
No. You have to set up your own clusters, just like I
Mhm.
did it.
Okay.
I'll give you a machine. Don't worry about that. Just see that if you're having some confusion with the steps which I followed. Are you okay so far?
Yeah, I think the steps seem fine.
Yeah. Now, guys, I'm setting up the workstation. Okay, I'll put it in a context. Probably, if you're getting lost, feel free to ask any questions. I'm doing nothing great. Okay, so this is my cluster. Okay, and this is my master node, and this will be my worker node, and this is my laptop. And theoretically, theoretically, kubectl you will have here, API server you will have here. This is the stuff I am doing. Make sense?
Yep.
So I set up this one done. Now guys, remember that for theoretically, let me write it also, because okay, it will be easy for us. So I'm discussing this is off topics. So just to make you understand, because we should not spend time on the Kubernetes side. So master component, we have API server, then etcd, scheduler, and controller manager, proxy, and last one, coordinates. Agree with me, all of you?
Right. Mhm.
And some utility will be there, kubectl, kubelet, kubadm, and one more I'm forgetting, docker. This will be tool, this will be pod, container, and all stuff like that. And this will be tool. This is the master. When we set up worker, in the worker, we'll have everything, but not this 4 and this 4. Agree with me? In the workstation, you will have kubectl. Agree with me?
Right.
Mhm.
Now kubectl, read that config file, and this config file can be located. One of the location is home.q config. Agree with me?
Right.
So this config file will have a specifications. Config files will have a specifications of what? So you'll have cluster, you have user, and you have context. All these sections will have in the config file. So right now I'm setting up the workstation. Okay, all of you.
Right.
Mhm.
So when you set up a cluster, you get the super access. See here. Read this command and tell me if you are able to understand this whole things.
Yeah, I think we have done some native Kubernetes installation, so this looks familiar. And then you have commands further down to
Yeah.
join the worker to the cluster also.
No. This only you read this one.
Okay, creating a directory, copying the admin config to home kubeconf, changing the permission of that file.
That's all. So remember, in order to set up your workstation, I said, right, you need a kubeconfig, kubectl read config file. So what we are doing basically nothing great, nothing great. In the same machine, in this machine only, I am setting up the workstation also. Okay.
Okay. On your control plane.
In the control plane only, master machine only, I am setting up the workstation. Okay. So how do I set it up? I am running this command, and here, just to be differentiate user exit, I'll become a CentOS. Okay. I am running this command. Done. Done. So this admin.conf is a config file which has admin access. Every access you have it. Done. So guys, basically I wanted to follow these steps. Done. I'm going to verify clusters 11. How do I do that? So right now I'm running the command from the workstation against API server. So clear the screen. This is my workstation now. See here. Not ready. Control plane master. 6 minutes. So it's not ready. What do we do? So we need a
Wait.
you need a networking driver. Look at this here.
Yes.
API server, controller manager, proxy, and scheduler. This is etcd, core DNS. All this pod has to be there in order to make a master, which I said already. This is the master. These utilities, tools. So how do I run this core DNS and the networking? Nothing I have to do. I have to install some networking driver. There's so many
CNI.
networking There's so many
CNI.
networking policies are there. As part of this session, I'm using VNet, but you can use anything else also. For example, uh, VNet, if you
Planner.
don't, Romana, you can use. You can use, many other 13, 14 networking drivers are available for this. So I'm installing this. This will install the VNet policies. I'm doing it. Just wait for a few seconds. It has created, but wait for a few seconds. It takes some time to get it. Ready. So now it's ready. If you run this next command, here you see that core DNS, etcd, API server, controller, proxy, scheduler. This is the driver of networking, and everything is okay. So now with that, my cluster is ready now. So guys, did you understand that so far? How do we set up workstation and with the driver and all?
Yeah, so one question which I just want to confirm. So after you installed your master, why did you exit sudo?
Okay.
To
I don't.
emulate a different machine.
So I'll just.
Okay.
It's just for
But
you
these
visualization.
these commands which are required to install the networking CNI basically, that would still require privileges, right?
So that's what I did. No, this one.
No, his point is you actually changed user to the regular CentOS user,
This was just a
and then
differentiation. There's no
no,
fundamental problem.
we got that. We got that just to differentiate it as a different machine. But then you actually installed the VNet itself
Huh.
as CentOS user and not as root. So I think that's where this question is
So
coming from.
remember that. I repeat,
I think
anything
namespace
you.
is defined in that template, is it?
So here understand that any network you deploy in the Kubernetes, it has to be pod. You see that this is the pod. Look at this pod. Vmnet is a pod. Now, how do you deploy the pod in the Kubernetes cluster? Using the kubectl. So, and kubectl apply, this is the file. This is the
I
Vmnet.
think the file is referencing, I think, the creation of the VNet on that Kubernetes
That's correct.
node itself.
Anything you want to deploy, you have to deploy through the workstation, right?
So
Yes.
basically, I think you exited because you didn't want everything to run as sudo.
Yeah. I wanted to set up a workstation
No,
as a
because even in
Kubernetes.
root, that home directory, home, that dot kube config file will be there. I think that was the reason, isn't it?
No, okay. I'll just
To go back to
delete.
sudo on the same directory, I think
No,
there is also a
just
kube
give me
config
2 seconds.
file.
Delete everything. Okay, understand fundamental. I said very clearly, please understand that. If you want to set up workstation, you need to install kubectl. If you want to if you want kubectl to talk to API server, then you need this file. And this file has some information. What I did, theoretically, forget about the root and CentOS. You
Hmm.
have this tool, this file at this location. With this file, this content is there.
Hmm.
That means kubectl can talk to API server. This
Hmm.
file has all the information, cluster, user, and context, which is required kubectl to talk to API server.
Correct.
Authentication, addresses, certificates, and everything. Now I did what, I didn't want it to run every command as a root, but I wanted to set up workstation as a normal user. So what I did, they are suggesting also. So what I did,
Okay.
normal user, like normal means you and me. So CentOS is normal user. So I created directory. QCTL was already installed in that earlier only, and I copied because I was in master, right? So I was having access to this file. If you are doing from different machine, you do SCP, not CP. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the same machine, so I copied this file. This file was having this information and put it up here and change the permission so I can use it. And after that, I got it. That's all.
Got
Got
it.
it?
So basically, you're telling the kubectl client to access that particular API server, which is running on the same host. That's it.
Yeah. Understood? Any
And
confusion?
yeah, and use the credentials under .cube/config.
Yeah. I'll put it in a one more way. Tomorrow, let's say someone set up your workstation, I mean master. What they will do, they'll generate some certificate for you and they'll send it to you. And you will feed the certificate in this file, an address and all, clustered address, users and certificate, and you can access that. So same thing you were doing also. Without this is the it's not like this you are doing only for the setup which I used it. For no matter which way you set up a cluster, you'll have to do this work. You use EKS, GKE, AKS, COPS, Cubedium, tens of tools are there, Minikube. You have to do this stuff. This is a workstation setup.
Right. Okay.
So now my workstation setup is done. Networking got installed. Focusing on the worker. So far so clear, right? All of you.
Right. I
Yeah.
just hope we don't forget any steps in the process.
I mean, I'll not stress too much. I'll just give you the lab also. But I'm just following this document only, which I designed with lots of care, and also every week sessions I am having here and there, validating also. So if you get confused, please ask me. Can I move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm setting up the workstation. Theoretically, if you think workstation, sorry, my bad. Uh,
Worker node.
Worker node, yeah. So theoretically speaking, worker node is this one and this one.
Mm-hmm.
But look at this component. Understand theoretical part of it. In worker node, what do you have? Look at me. Look at my screen very carefully. This is the master node. This is the worker node. So worker node, this utility you have is similar actually. Only the one changes has happened in the worker node is you have only proxy, don't have anything these pods actually. Correct now?
Right.
Now one more thing I would like to tell you. This magical command, go up. This Kubedium init, when you do init, it set up a master. Okay. Now
Mhm.
when you run join, Kubedium join is set up a worker. Understood this? That means after installing all the prerequisite, Kubedium join, Kubedium join.
Right.
Then this will talk to the API server and this machine will also be a part of cluster. Make sense
Correct.
theoretically?
Yeah, and when you say get all nodes, get nodes, then you'll also see the worker nodes.
That's correct. So what I'm doing.
Hello everyone, if you would like to access the remaining videos of this playlist of 50 plus more tools which are coming under DevOps, DevSecOps, SRE, DataOps, GitOps, etc. Kindly become our channel members by clicking on the joining button. You would have access to 100s of playlists and 1000s of videos lifetime access with this membership. Enjoy.
Thanks for watching. Want to study further? Join our training programs today.